What happens when one of Hollywood's most beloved actors walks onto a talk show stage expecting a friendly conversation, only to be met with hostility, condescension, and attacks that cross every line imaginable? In just 30 seconds of airtime, a daytime television host went from smiling for the cameras to launching an assault so vicious, so uncalled for, that it ended with security escorting a guest off the set while millions watched in absolute shock. This is the story of Jamie Foxx and his appearance on The View that nobody saw coming. Jamie Foxx arrived at the studio that morning like he had done countless times before. The man is a professional, Oscar winner, Grammy winner, comedian, actor, musician. He has sat across from every major interviewer in the business. He knows how these things work. You show up, you promote your project, you share some laughs, you leave. Simple, easy, standard protocol for someone of his caliber. But the moment he walked onto that stage, something felt different. The energy was off. You could see it in his face. That quick scan of the room that celebrities do when they sense tension. Still, he smiled. He waved to the audience. He took his seat next to the panel of hosts, ready to have what he thought would be a normal conversation. Joy Behar sat at the table with her co-hosts, and from the very first question, you could tell this was not going to be a typical interview. There was an edge to her voice, a sharpness that had nothing to do with wit and everything to do with something else entirely. "So, Jamie," Joy began, barely looking up from her notes, "you have a new movie coming out. Another one. How many is that now? Are you just taking every role that comes your way, or is there actually some thought process behind it?" The audience went quiet. It was not a question. It was a jab. A shot right out of the gate. Jamie's smile faltered for just a second, but he recovered quickly. He is a professional, remember? "Well, I love what I do," Jamie replied, keeping his tone light. "I try to pick projects that challenge me, that let me explore different characters. It's about the craft for me." Joy leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms. "The craft," she repeated, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Is that what we're calling it now? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks more like you're just chasing a paycheck. I mean, let's be honest. Some of these movies you've been in lately, they're not exactly Oscar material, are they?" One of the other co-hosts shifted uncomfortably in her seat. You could see her trying to jump in, to redirect the conversation, but Joy was not having it. She pressed on. Jamie kept his composure, but you could see his jaw tighten. "I think audiences connect with different things," he said carefully. "Not every movie has to be a heavy drama. Sometimes people just want to be entertained. There's value in that." "Entertained?" Joy scoffed. "Sure, but let's talk about something else. Let's talk about your personal life. You've been in the headlines a lot lately. Parties, different women, living the high life. Don't you think at some point you should settle down? I mean, you're not getting any younger. What are you now? 50-something? 60? The audience gasped. It was such a deliberate, unnecessary dig. Jamie is nowhere near 60, and everyone in that room knew it. It was meant to embarrass him, to belittle him on national television. "I'm actually in my 50s, Jamie said, his voice still measured, but firmer now. "And I don't think my age or my personal life is really what we're here to discuss." Joy waved her hand dismissively. "Oh, come on. You celebrities always want to promote your projects, but you don't want to answer the real questions. That's the problem with Hollywood. You all think you're untouchable. You think you can just show up, say a few cute things, and we're all supposed to bow down." Jamie sat up straighter. "I came here to talk about my work," he said, his voice calm but direct. "I came here with respect for you and this show, but what you're doing right now, this is not an interview. This is you trying to tear me down for no reason." Joy laughed. Actually laughed. "Oh, please," don't be so sensitive. I'm just asking questions. If you can't handle a little scrutiny, maybe you shouldn't be in this business." That was the line. That was the moment where everything shifted. You could see it in Jamie's eyes. The realization that this was not going to get better. That no matter what he said, no matter how gracious he tried to be, this woman was determined to make him look bad. "You know what?" Jamie said, standing up from his chair. "I have been in this business for decades. I have worked with the best. I have been interviewed by legends. And never, not once, have I been treated with such disrespect. This is not journalism. This is not even entertainment. This is just mean." The audience erupted. Some people clapped. Some people gasped. The other co-hosts looked absolutely mortified. But Joy? Joy just sat there with a smug look on her face. "Oh, so now you're going to play the victim," she shot back. Typical. A millionaire actor who can't take a little criticism. Do you know how pathetic that looks? Jamie shook his head. This is not criticism. Criticism is constructive. What you're doing is attacking me personally, questioning my integrity, mocking my age, my choices, my career. And for what? What did I do to deserve this? I came here in good faith. Joy leaned forward, her voice rising. You want to know what you did? You represent everything that's wrong with Hollywood. You people walk around like you're gods. You make millions of dollars while regular people struggle. And then you come on shows like this and expect us to kiss your feet. Well, I'm not doing it. Somebody needs to hold you accountable. Jamie stared at her, incredulous. Accountable for what? Exactly? For working hard? For building a career? For entertaining people? You don't even know me. You have no idea what I've been through, what I've overcome, what I give back to my community. But you sit here in your chair and judge me like you have any right. One of the other hosts finally managed to get a word in. Okay, maybe we should all just take a breath and... No, Joy interrupted. I'm not taking a breath. I'm tired of these celebrities coming on here and thinking they can control the narrative. This is my show, my table, and if he doesn't like it, he can leave. The studio went dead silent. It was a challenge, a dare, and Jamie Foxx was not about to back down. You know what? He said, his voice steady and powerful. You're absolutely right. I can leave, and I will, because I don't need this. I don't need to sit here and be insulted by someone who clearly has some kind of personal issue that has nothing to do with me. I came here to promote a film that I'm proud of. A film that a lot of talented people worked very hard on, but I'm not going to do it at the expense of my dignity. He started to walk off the stage. The audience was going crazy now. Some people were cheering for him. Some people were booing Joy. It was complete chaos. But Joy was not done. She could not let him have the last word. That's right. Run away, she shouted after him. Just like I knew you would. You can't handle the heat, so you run. That's what you Hollywood people do? You're all cowards. Jamie stopped. He turned around slowly. And when he spoke, his voice cut through all the noise in that room like a knife. I have been called a lot of things in my life, he said, but a coward is not one of them. I have fought for everything I have. I have earned every single opportunity that has come my way. And I have never, ever treated another human being the way you have treated me today. You want to talk about accountability? Look in the mirror, because what you just did was not brave. It was not honest. It was cruel, and it was beneath you. The other hosts were frantically trying to cut to commercial. The producers were losing their minds behind the scenes. But Joy was still going. Get him out of here, she yelled, pointing at Jamie. Security, get him out. That was when the security guards appeared. Two of them, looking extremely uncomfortable, approached Jamie. But here is the thing. Jamie did not resist. He did not make a scene. He simply held up his hands, nodded at them, and said, It's okay. I'm leaving." As he walked toward the exit, the audience was on their feet. Half of them were applauding him. The other half were shouting at Joy. It was pandemonium. Pure, unfiltered pandemonium. Joy sat at the table, her face red, still trying to justify herself to the cameras. "You all saw that, right? You saw how he acted? That's the real Jamie Foxx. That's who he really is." But nobody was listening to her anymore. The camera operators were scrambling. The director was screaming into headsets. The other co-hosts were trying to distance themselves from what had just happened. And Jamie Foxx was walking out of that studio with his head held high. Just before he reached the door, he turned back one last time. Not to Joy, not to the hosts, but to the audience. "Thank you for having me," he said simply. "I wish this could have gone differently." And then he was gone. The show cut to commercial immediately, but the damage was already done. What was supposed to be a routine promotional interview had turned into one of the most uncomfortable, explosive moments in daytime television history. And it was all because one host decided that attacking a guest was more important than having a respectful conversation. In the moments after Jamie left, the studio was in complete disarray. Producers were running around trying to figure out what to do next. The other co-hosts were sitting at the table in stunned silence. And Joy was still trying to convince anyone who would listen that she had been in the right. "I stand by what I said," she declared to her co-hosts during the commercial break, though the microphones still caught some of it. "Someone needs to call these people out." But one of the other hosts was not having it. "Call them out for what, Joy? For being successful? For working hard? He did not deserve that. None of that was okay." The tension at the table was thick enough to cut with a knife. When the show came back from commercial, they tried to move on to other topics, but you could tell that everyone was still reeling from what had happened. The energy was completely different. The audience was distracted. Even Joy seemed a bit shaken, though she would never admit it. Meanwhile, backstage, Jamie was being asked by the producers if he wanted to make a statement, if he wanted to come back out and try to smooth things over. But he declined. He had said everything he needed to say. There was nothing left to add. "I came here to do my job," he told them. "I tried to be respectful, but I'm not going to let anyone treat me like that. I don't care who they are or what platform they have. Respect is a two-way street." And with that, he left the building. Back on set, the show limped to the end of the episode. The remaining segments felt hollow. The co-hosts could barely concentrate. And Joy, for all her bluster and bravado during the confrontation, seemed to realize that she had crossed a line. But she was too proud to acknowledge it. Too stubborn to admit that maybe, just maybe, she had been wrong. When the cameras finally stopped rolling and the show was over, the other hosts confronted her. Not in a cruel way, but in a way that made it clear they were not okay with what had happened. "That was too far, Joy," one of them said. "Way too far. He didn't deserve any of that." Joy tried to brush it off. "He's a big boy. He can handle it." "That's not the point." Another host chimed in. "We're supposed to have conversations here, not ambushes. You made it personal. You attacked him for no reason. And now, we all look bad." The argument continued for a while, but it was clear that Joy was not going to back down. In her mind, she had done nothing wrong. She had asked tough questions. She had held a celebrity accountable. That was her story, and she was sticking to it. But the truth was obvious to everyone else. This was not about holding anyone accountable. This was about ego. This was about a host who wanted to prove she could take down a big name. And in the process, she had humiliated herself and damaged the reputation of the show. Jamie Foxx, on the other hand, walked away from that disaster with his dignity intact. He had not yelled. He had not cursed. He had not thrown insults back at Joy, even though he easily could have. He had simply stood up for himself, called out the disrespect, and left, like a professional, like someone who knows his worth and refuses to be diminished by anyone. The conversation he had with Joy was not really a conversation at all. It was a one-sided attack disguised as an interview. From the very first question about his career choices, to the jabs about his age, to the accusations about his lifestyle, every single thing Joy said was designed to provoke him, to make him look bad, to get a reaction. And when he did finally react, when he stood up and called her out, she tried to paint him as the bad guy, as someone who could not handle criticism, as someone who was too sensitive, too entitled, too Hollywood. But anyone watching that exchange knew the truth. Jamie Foxx had been nothing but respectful and patient, even as Joy Behar hurled insult after insult at him. He had tried to answer her questions. He had tried to keep things civil, but there is only so much a person can take before they have to draw a line. And draw a line he did. The moment he stood up and said, "This is not an interview. This is you trying to tear me down for no reason," was the moment he took back control. He refused to be a victim. He refused to sit there and let someone disrespect him on national television. And he did it with grace and strength. That is what made his exit so powerful. He did not storm off in a rage. He did not slam anything or shout obscenities. He simply stated his truth, defended his dignity, and walked away. That takes courage. That takes restraint. That takes a level of self-respect that not everyone has. Joy, on the other hand, showed exactly who she was in that moment. When Jamie stood up to leave, she could have backed down. She could have apologized. She could have acknowledged that maybe she had pushed too hard, but instead, she doubled down. She yelled after him. She called him a coward. She demanded security remove him, even though he was already leaving on his own. That desperation to have the last word, to maintain control, to avoid any accountability. For her own behavior, it revealed everything. It showed that this was never about asking tough questions or holding anyone accountable. This was about power, about a host who could not handle being challenged by a guest. The fact that she called for security to remove him, even as he was calmly walking away, was perhaps the most telling moment of all. It was an attempt to paint him as the aggressor, as someone who needed to be escorted out, when in reality, he was the one being attacked the entire time. Jamie's final words to the audience before he left summed it up perfectly. "Thank you for having me. I wish this could have gone differently." No anger, no bitterness, just disappointment that what should have been a pleasant interview had turned into something so ugly. Throughout the entire ordeal, Jamie maintained his composure. Even when Joy mocked his age, even when she accused him of just chasing paychecks, even when she attacked his personal life, he kept his cool. He responded thoughtfully. He tried to bring the conversation back to a respectful place. And only when it became absolutely clear that Joy had no intention of treating him with basic human decency did he decide to remove himself from the situation. That is not running away. That is not being unable to handle the heat. That is knowing when a situation is toxic and choosing not to participate in it anymore. That is self-preservation. That is wisdom. Joy's insistence that he was running away, that he was a coward, that he could not handle criticism, it all rang hollow. Because everyone watching could see that Jamie had handled far more than he should have had to. He had endured attack after attack with patience and grace. And when he finally said, "Enough is enough," he did so with dignity. The contrast between the two of them could not have been more stark. Jamie, calm and collected, speaking clearly and honestly about how he felt. Joy, loud and defensive, lashing out and trying to justify behavior that was clearly out of line. When Jamie said, "I have never treated another human being the way you have treated me today," it hit hard because it was true. You could see it in his face. the genuine hurt and confusion over why someone would be so hostile toward him for no apparent reason. And when he told her that what she did was not brave, it was cruel, and it was beneath her, that was not an insult. That was a truth she needed to hear, because it was beneath her. Regardless of how anyone feels about Joy Behar as a host or a personality, what she did to Jamie Foxx in that interview was inexcusable. The whole thing lasted less than 20 minutes, but it felt like an eternity. Every question Joy asked was loaded. Every comment she made was barbed. And every time Jamie tried to steer things back to a normal conversation, she yanked it back into confrontation. It was exhausting to watch. And it was infuriating. Because Jamie Foxx is not some controversial figure. He is not someone with a history of bad behavior or scandals. He is, by all accounts, one of the most talented and hardworking people in entertainment. He has earned his place in Hollywood through sheer talent and dedication. For Joy to sit there and try to tear him down, to suggest that he is just coasting on fame or chasing money, was not only unfair, it was factually wrong. Jamie Foxx has an Oscar. He has a Grammy. He has proven himself time and time again in multiple fields. He did not luck into success. He earned it. But none of that mattered to Joy in that moment. She had an agenda, and she was going to stick to it no matter what, even as her co-hosts looked uncomfortable, even as the audience turned against her, even as Jamie gave her multiple opportunities to back down. She refused. Pride is a powerful thing, and sometimes it makes people do things they should not do, say things they should not say, refuse to apologize when they absolutely should. Jamie's decision to leave was not just about that one interview. It was about setting a boundary. It was about saying, I will not allow myself to be treated this way, no matter who you are or where we are. That message resonates beyond just this one incident. It is a reminder that everyone deserves respect, regardless of their status or profession. The way he handled himself in that impossible situation is a masterclass in maintaining dignity under pressure. He did not let Joy's attacks change who he is. He did not stoop to her level. He took the high road, even when the low road would have been so much easier. And that is why, when he walked out of that studio, he walked out as the undeniable good guy in this story. Not because he is perfect, not because he is above criticism, but because he conducted himself with class, integrity, and self-respect in a situation where he was being given none of those things. Joy Behar may have thought she was proving a point that day. She may have thought she was being bold or edgy or unafraid to ask the hard questions, but what she actually proved was that sometimes the person with the microphone and the platform can be the bully. And when that happens, it takes real courage to stand up and walk away. Jamie Foxx had that courage, and that is what made his exit so powerful, so memorable, and so completely justified.